Africa's Vision Network. Africa's Vision Network features African cultural awareness, education, economic empowerment, religion, spirituality, and other issues focusing on the African world. I am Princess Ayo, your host for the show. And this evening, we have a very interesting panel, very close to one of us who work here, Miss Gloria Fleming, our producer. These are her classmates from high school, right?
Yes.
Ooh. Well, I must say on their behalf, Akwaaba, right? I got that right? That is welcome in the Akan language, which is a Ghanaian language. Welcome to Ghana, located in the heart of West Africa. The people of Ghana are known as the people of smiles. Ghana was once known as the Gold Coast because of the abundance of gold. This evening, our guests will share with you their excitement and experience in participating in Ghana's 50th anniversary independence and in their community development project at Pankram Village in Cape Coast, a very historic area. With us to share these experiences are Charles and Georgia Sayer Buggs, Gwendolyn Saylor Alexis, and Robert Williams. Charles Buggs, a native of Jacksonville, Florida, is a retired military officer and a federal government retiree. He is the business manager of their community project in Ghana. Georgia, his wife, is a native New Yorker who met him at Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida, where they completed their degrees. She is a registered nurse as well as retired from the federal government as a senior program analyst with the Office of Minority Health. She serves as the coordinator of their community project. He and Georgia reside in McLean, Virginia. Gwendolyn Saylor Alexis, the sister of Georgia, is a co-sponsor of their community project. She is a retired nurse instructor from the Long Island, New York school system. She enjoys retired life between Florida and Maryland. I want that life. Robert Williams is a native of Jacksonville, Florida. After high school, he attended Howard University, where he completed his graduate and undergraduate degrees. He is a retired mental health practitioner. He and his wife, Barbara, reside in Silver Spring, Maryland. Charles and Robert recently celebrated their 50th class reunion along with our producer, Gloria. Like I said, a big Akwaaba to Africa's Vision Network, to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Now, Georgia, I'm going to start with you. What motivated you and your family to sponsor this tour to Ghana?
Well, Princess, in 2005, we went to Ghana for the first time. I had a genetic test done through African ancestry, and at that time I found out that on my maternal mother's side that our heritage went back to the Akan people in Ghana, in Kumasi. And so we made that journey back so that we could go back to our roots there and to see the people, meet the people, and get that sense of belonging. Because I had traveled to Africa before, and I don't think that in those countries where I traveled, I got that connection. But I did on that first trip to Kumasi. I really somehow felt that spiritual connection. So one of the things we wanted to do was to go back again, and so we decided to go back during the Golden Anniversary. And so that's why we went back in 2007 this year, to go back.
Okay. And what is explain this community project. What is that?
The community project is a primary school that we are building in Ghana. And one of the things we wanted to do on the second trip was to go back and look at the success of the project, look at the progress of that project.
So that was involved in that. So what were some of the memorable moments of the anniversary for you?
Oh, I mean, we just had tons of memorable moments. First of all, the people in Ghana are just tremendous in terms of, like you said earlier, they're known for their smiles, and maybe I have a little of that too. The people were very, very friendly. We had an affair at our one of the houses in Accra, where we got a chance to actually meet and mingle. Because you know when you go on tours, you never get a chance to really meet and mingle with the native people. And we had that opportunity after one of the Golden Anniversary events, as well as being treated like first-class people when we went to the stadium to observe all of the events during that celebration.
And that's so different from here.
Oh yes, indeed.
I know that here as well. Now, Charles, tell us about some of the highlights of the trip for you.
Well, my trip to Ghana was extremely rewarding and very, very educational. I had read about Ghana, but it wasn't until I got there that I was able to actually, appreciate Ghana, and to actually, understand, a great deal more about the slave trade in the country where
you went to the dungeons?
I now live. I visited the dungeons, and I looked at things as they were there. And it actually, made me, get a better understanding as to how difficult it was for my people, leaving Africa and coming to America. I will never, have any doubt, in terms of life, in terms of the people there, in terms of that trip from Africa to America, being more difficult here than it was for them there. There is no doubt that making the trip from Africa to America was the most difficult part of the journey.
Did they ever tell you in Ghana that you looked like a Ghanaian?
No, they told me that I more or less reminded them of someone from Nigeria.
You could be, yes. You look, when I first met you, and I didn't want to say anything, because when you stood up there, I was like, he could be Nigerian, he could be, but they're all supposed to be doing a Ghana thing, so I'm like, this is Ghana.
Well,
look African.
Well, basically, I, as my wife did the DNA, in terms of my father, and we traced it back to Nigeria. So I guess as far as the DNA is concerned, Nigeria.
It showed up. Let's see, it comes up in the next generation. It surely showed up. Now, what motivated you to go on a tour? This is for Robert.
I guess there were many things that motivated me to go on this tour. Listening to Charles was one thing, but of course doing some reading and really understanding some things about Africa. But I really wanted to be there in Africa so that I could have the real first-hand experience of being there and feeling, talking, and just associating with people so that I could really just bring it home for me. And so being there, that's one of the things it did for me, just bringing it home for me. And when I'm talking about bringing it home for me, I'm talking about, I've never had any question about where I came from, but being there and talking to some of the people who live there. And by the way, we had this wonderful tour guide. Wonderful tour guide.
Was this organized by you, or was this a tour?
No, it was an organized tour out of New York.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
For the Golden Anniversary.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And this tour guide was very educational for us. He was a person who took care of us.
Okay.
He
was from Ghana?
Yes. And told many stories and many things like that. But one of the things, let's start with the beginning of this. And the beginning of this was when he came the next morning to pick us up to take us to the stadium. There must have been 400,000 to 500,000 people in the neighborhood of that stadium. And yet we were ushered from our hotel firsthand through all of this maze of people, where we were guided into a stadium and sat with good seats up front.
I hear you.
And this was just amazing. And I felt just like we were just treated with royalty there. That was something that we appreciate. And I was saying, how is this guy going to get us through all of these people? And yet he did it.
Now, what were some of the highlights of the independence celebration for you?
Some of the highlights, and that's a good question. I really like it because for you, Princess, I want you to know that I was a person who was very much affiliated with marching bands. And there were many, many marching military groups out there, bands and things like that. So I really, truly enjoyed the kind of marching, the kind of camaraderie, and people, just black people just getting together and just seemingly celebrating the freedom from the British.
I can imagine. I was just thinking, you know, how did this affect you now, the way you live now?
I don't know that it's changed much about me, other than I'm more attentive to things that maybe I took for granted. For example, there were people that we talked to who wanted things like books.
Right.
And they wanted things like magazines, just things to read. And I got to think about this, Princess, because in my basement and in my garage, there are many things like books and things that we have discarded, we don't even want.
So many of us.
And so these are the kinds of things that I've begun to think about, to say, hey, I can send these to people who want to read them.
Right. That's good. Gwendolyn?
Yeah.
There was another purpose to your trip to Ghana, and she mentioned a little bit about it, but you tell us more about this.
Well, I think I have to start with the trip in 05.
Okay.
Now, the trip in 05, I went with my sister and my brother-in-law. And she had set up bags to distribute to 2 villages she had, and also to the hospitals. And so that was one of the goals, going there the first time, and also finding out about our genealogy there.
Right.
So going there, she insisted that we were going to get to 2 villages and give out the things to the villages. And I said to her, I don't see how she was going to do it. But she did. And in so doing it, we met a young man at the hotel named Philip. And she said to him, do you know of a village that we could take these things to? And he said, my village, where I come from. And so he did.
Is that
and that was Palm Crown Village. Palm Crown Village. And that's where we first got to Palm Crown Village. And when we got there, and she left, we distributed the things to that village, the chief said that they wanted to have a school built, something built for the children, you know, school. And would we consider doing that? Well, we said, well, we would try. We wasn't sure that we could do it. And that was the beginning of the community project. Okay. So, in coming back to the 50th anniversary, we found that when we got there, I really wanted to see the anniversary, the celebrations, but I was so keyed up about going back to the village to see how well everything was being done, the building. And that's what was really more on my mind, even though going to the anniversary. But I was really keyed up to see what was happening with the children. And also we had gotten 2 barrels of books, because at one of the hotels in 05, the young men would say, if you could just give us pencils or books for the kids, for their children. They didn't ask for money. And so those are the things we put in 2 barrels, and we had them sent ahead. And when we got there, with some clothes and other things, but the books and the pencils. And that was exciting to me.
So how was the building? What was happening?
When we got there, it was partially finished. You know, it was just, they had part of the roof and the buildings on the side, everything. So it's still in progress. And what I appreciated was that we were able to send money for them to get the materials, but the people, the men and the women and even the children were there helping to build the building. And they also sent us monthly reports on the progress of the building. When they got the sand, you saw the truck with the sand, and each thing that was being done. It was just so exciting to me. I believe in education, so one of the things with me is to see that school. And my dream, as well as the others, is the hope that it will be finished.
Yes. So, Charles, you were involved in this project. How did you start this whole idea of the school?
Well, when we were there, I think as was stated earlier, we had talked about possibly building a school because they needed help. And we asked him, well, what was the problem? You know, can't you get Ghana to build your school? Right. Well, he said they probably would do that, you know, one day. But he had no information as to when that would be.
Right.
And he found that young kids, first, second grade, had to walk maybe 2 or 3 miles to the main road to get transportation.
Sure.
So my wife and my sister-in-law, we talked about it, and we said, oh, okay. But we hadn't worked out the details at the
Financial.
time. Yes. But once we returned to our homes, we were able to work out the details. And we were able to find a young man there, Philip was his name, that would be able to give us a hand, and he was very trustworthy.
Right, that's what you
So he was kind of our coordinator. And we started sending him money after he sent us a plan of what the school would look like. And the money started going to him by way of one bank to the next bank.
Okay.
And it was working out fine. And like he said, he would send us pictures as to progress being made.
Yes.
And when we arrived there, we were quite happy with the progress that had been made. I would say we were the school was about 3/4 completed, and it looked great. So.
Okay. And you got to see it too?
Yes, I did.
You were with them?
Yes, I did.
How exciting. When you were with the people, did you get to eat the food? Traditional foods? Did you all get to eat?
Well,
That's a good question.
Yes, tell me. How was it?
When we stayed in the hotel, we mainly ate the dishes that the hotel prepared. And so some of them were native foods. But I took the risk, okay, on our bus trip. When our tour guide got out, one of the delicacies there that they sell on the streets is I should say rodent.
what was it called? Yes, let's call it rodent.
It was a rodent. It was
Okay.
It was a big one. They slice it, and you eat
What do they call it? What is the name of it?
I think it's bush rat. Bush
No,
something.
that's what they had, because he showed us, and as we traveled, in the bus and whatnot, he would point them out. So one day while we were traveling in town, there was a vendor selling the little the rats
said,
that
why
were
not?
barbecue. They were barbecue.
Okay.
And so he ran out and he got a couple, brought them back on the bus for us to taste. Well, everybody screamed and hollered, "Oh no!" And so he said, "Try it. You don't know what you're missing." So I said, "Well, Georgia, there's nothing like trying it." So I took a piece. I don't think any of them tried it, but I did. And actually, that little teeny tiny piece that I ate didn't taste too bad. It was tiny. Because all the while, the psychological effect of the rodent.
Of course.
That was funny.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's just too much. We have like 2 minutes to go. Can you believe it? Time is gone already. But I was just thinking, Georgia, if you could tell us, like in 30 seconds, how this changed your life going to Africa?
It has changed my life in one way in particular. I really would like to end up having dual citizenship. I want to have that ability to go back and forth without going through the process of, the visa process. But I want to really feel that is my ancestral home.
Right.
When we sit around with folks here and they can talk about where they came from, I now know where I came from, where my roots are. So I would like that, and that's something I'm going to work on.
Right. And we're going to see a film in a minute that's going to show some photographs and things like that about where you went.
Yes.
So I'm just excited to have you on the show. It was a blast. We had fun. Didn't we have fun?
Thank you, Francis.
Wonderful.
Thank you for inviting us.
You're welcome.
We'd
You're
like to thank
welcome.
Gloria for inviting us and making it all possible.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I want to thank our audience for being with us for this show. I know you've learned something. If nothing else, you laughed with us. That's another story about the rat. How about that? But thank you for being with us. And tune in again when we have our next show, exciting show, on Africa's Vision Network.